Here we have my new Consew model CN2053R model 1A. This is basically the 20U53, and what you can see is that I have it installed in my 1920s domestic unit. So because I've done all that work for my Juki and my Kenmore, I thought this could be a fun challenge to see if I could get this machine in here as well. So here we are. It is hooked up to the treadle, and under here I've had to do a bit of surgery. Let's see if we can get this light in here to put I've moved the platform up, and I've put the knee controller here, and it's adjustable the same, so it can use either for the zigzag width or for raising the presser foot. And you'll see it works, but I've had to, because it's right in the middle here, I've adjusted the arm and added a few extra bits to make it work. It does touch the treadle belt slightly, so I'll probably have to adjust it eventually, but I just thought I would show you how it has worked thus far. So the hardest part of this machine is getting at the bobbin. So what I realized is if I cut a hole here, I can actually reach up in there and pull the bobbin out, and it makes it a lot easier to gain access to it. So you can see probably right there's the bobbin. So it's possible. It's not brilliantly convenient, but before I had put the hole in, you had to pull the machine out every time you had to do some work. So what I'll do is I'll put the camera on the tripod and I'll show you it sewing. So what are my thoughts on this machine? Well, it's not bad. It's not as good as some of my machines, but it's definitely not bad, which I'm pleased about. So there are a few plasticky bits, like that's plastic, so that's not great, but you hopefully can get replacement parts. You know, it's what I do like about it is it's got all the red dots on top, so it's easy to know where to iron it or to oil it. And it's got felt wicks in there, so it means it will definitely hold the oil longer between sewing, especially when you're doing a lot, because as we all know, if you do a lot you have to oil it very regularly. So there's some plasticky bits. I find this stitch length knob really stiff to turn, and I think because it's moving that reverse lever down, so it seems to be a lot easier to turn if you help the reverse lever a bit. Otherwise it's mighty difficult to turn. This is also the needle position lever, is sort of plasticky, but it's not really under much stress. You just push it in and you move your needle position and it's okay. And it does have a click bit. And what you can see here is when I use the knee lever, it's like having a ghost in your machine. So it's working very well. So I shall thread up the beast and off we go. So I've got it threaded. Now let's pull up the bobbin thread. Good, that worked. So I'm still struggling trying to get the bobbin the tension on this machine adjusted right, because I'm trying to use bobbin thread in the bobbin. It's being particularly odd at the moment. So I might grab the one out of my Juki, which I've already got adjusted perfectly, and see if that makes it easier, but it just... Whoop, oh, dropped. So that seems to be a little more cooperative, so let's find a piece of fabric and off we go. Okay, so here's a bit of cotton. And let's double it over and see what happens. As I said, the tension is not probably good on this yet, but we'll just see how we get on. So this knob here allows you to lock the needle straight in the straight stitch position. I've ordered the straight stitch plate and the straight stitch foot, not that I needed one because I've got one on my Juki. But also the embroidery plate. So the one thing that's a pain is, but it's designed for, let's lock that needle in straight stitch, is this balance wheel is not very heavy. So it does make it a little bit irregular on trying to. Actually, it looks a lot better now. That's pretty good. Actually, I managed to get the tension right. Hooray! But it's hard to get it perfectly smooth. So I could put a domestic motor on this because it takes a domestic motor. But I'm trying to figure out how I can get a heavier balance wheel that fits here because the shaft is a different size. But it's not so bad, so I can live with it. Let's take this off and see how well we do. Okay, so see the stitches are a bit wibbly wobbly, but once I have the straight foot in there, it'll be much better. I'm pretty sure. There's no reason why not. But I got this machine specifically because it's one of the few which I thought I might be able to make fit in here, but also at an affordable price to have the ability to use the knee controller to get the width. Oops, I need to lift this up a bit. So I'm not super good at this yet. I've got a lot of learning to do and I need a satin stitch foot for this machine as well, so it's got the channel under there so it doesn't bunch up so much. But ultimately I will be using this for free motion more than sewing with manual zigzag like this. You can get going at a fairly good speed for a treadle. So it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to do. It's a bit of work, but it's not impossible to treadle and do that at the same time. It's a little more challenging, obviously, but you know, I'm always up for a little bit of an adventure challenge. I have to learn how to get perfect control so that I can do the important shapes. So if I put this in right needle position, then what you can do is you can get pyramids going. You can see I can do it. I'm just not super great yet. But it's working, So, and the tension's pretty good. I mean, you need to pull it through to the other side. I might be able to increase this more, but interfacing or stabilizer would help a lot. So I've still got to make another adjustment to this because it's popping off underneath, so sometimes I lose my zigzag, but it's just a matter of adjusting that little control foot a little forward or back. But we're pretty much perfect now, so I'm quite thrilled that we're finally in a good position to do this. So because of the model of this machine, the 53, it accepts a standard domestic motor. So I have a Kenmore motor here, 1.2 amps. And I've put this heavier balance wheel on instead of the original, just so I can treadle it. The pros and cons for doing that: it makes the response of the machine slower. So with the plastic wheel that originally came with it, it's almost instant speed. However, it's quieter with this heavier balance wheel and a little easier to control. So pros and cons for both. But I'll show you how it sounds and works. I've also, because this machine is very noisy, I've put, let's see if we can see down here, anti-slip matting underneath just to absorb some of the vibrations from it. So hopefully that will, dropping things, make it a little quieter. So when I first sit down, just because of the condensed angle under here, I always do a little practice to make sure I can get full access to the movement that I need. So I can. I've also adjusted the spring a bit in here, extended it, because it was way too difficult. You could see if I really push, it would lift the machine. So I just put a little wire to reduce the power on the spring a bit, just so it didn't hurt my leg so much. Because of the weight of the bar down below, there's no problem with it springing back. So let's bring up the bobbin thread. So this is a full rotary hook gear driven machine. So the one thing you'll find is that the gears are quite noisy on this compared to my 411G. But with the padding underneath, it's not quite so bad now. So you see it takes a bit to wind up to full speed, but I've got it limited as well, so it won't go as fast as it would. Just while I'm practicing and getting my techniques going. So ignoring all the bits, I thought it'd be fun to show you how simple it is to activate the treadle. So I just have to unplug the foot down there and move the power cord out of the way. That motor is good and hot now. So I just put these back here. They're now out of the way. And then what I can do is remove this belt, and I've used one of these flexi belts. Just roll it over there, it's no problem. And then bring the treadle belt up here. So all I have to do is loosen the clutch a bit and there we go. said, you always have to make sure the knee is in the perfect spot, especially now that I've got to do this myself. You can get a good speed going. You can hear the gears going. That's why I find it so noisy about this machine. You can't hear the gears really at all on my 401G, or hardly at all. This is definitely a bit of a noisy beast. But it works very well, so can't complain about that. And it's got a lovely wide stitch, which is in the knee control, which is what I needed. The final piece I wanted to show is the bobbin winder hooked up and working. Trim off this thread. Okay, you see it works fine. Takes a while, but I do a lot of sewing before I run out of bobbin thread, so that will still work out fine.